My $8,000 koi pond was destroyed by a trespassing kid. Now his mom is suing me. I 22 never thought my peaceful koi pond would become the center of a neighborhood drama that would spiral into legal battles and community divisions. But here we are, and I suppose I should start from the beginning to give you the full picture. My name is James Chen, and I've lived in this suburban neighborhood of Maple Grove for the past 3 years. I inherited this house from my grandfather, who was a traditional Japanese garden designer. The koi pond was his final project before he passed away, and maintaining it became my way of keeping his memory alive. The pond isn't just some hole in the ground with fish in it. It's a meticulously designed ecosystem spanning nearly a quarter of my backyard. We're talking about a 12-foot by 18-foot pond with varying depths, complete with 3 cascading waterfalls, an authentic wooden bridge made from imported Japanese cypress, and carefully placed rocks that my grandfather personally selected from a quarry 2 states away. The filtration system alone cost more than most people spend on their first car. But the real stars are the koi themselves. I have, had 11 prize specimens, each with their own distinct patterns and personalities. There's Artemis, a platinum ugon with scales that shimmer like moonlight, worth about $3,000. Then there's Zeus, a massive kumonryu that changes pattern with the seasons, who cost me $4,500. My most prized fish was a stunning Tancho Kohaku named Emperor, whose perfect red circle on his head made him worth over $8,000. These aren't just fish, they're living art pieces that require constant care and attention. Karen Thompson moved in next door about 8 months ago with her son Timmy and her husband Greg, who's rarely home due to his job as a traveling salesman. From day one, I could tell she was going to be trouble. Within the first week, she had already complained about my Japanese maple dropping leaves into her yard and suggested I should cut it down. The issues with Timmy started small. I'd catch him peering through my fence, throwing pebbles into the pond, or trying to poke sticks through the slats. Each time, I'd politely but firmly ask him to stop, and each time, Karen would dismiss my concerns with that infuriating phrase, "Kids will be kids." I took all the reasonable precautions. My yard is surrounded by a 6-foot privacy fence with clear no trespassing and private property signs posted every 10 feet. I even installed security cameras after the 3rd time I caught Timmy in my yard. When I showed Karen the footage of her son climbing over my fence, she actually had the audacity to suggest I was creepy for having cameras. The situation reached a breaking point last month when I had to attend a koi exhibition 2 towns over. I'm part of the Regional Koi Enthusiasts Association, and this was our annual showcase event. I'd spent weeks preparing Emperor for the show, but at the last minute, decided he seemed too stressed for travel. Looking back, I wish I'd taken him with me. I was in the middle of a conversation with a fellow enthusiast about the proper way to supplement koi diet during breeding season when my phone started buzzing. Karen's number flashed on the screen. I had it saved from our previous confrontations. Initially, I ignored it, but when she called for the 3rd time in succession, I reluctantly answered. "Your pond almost killed my baby." Her shrieking voice was so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. In the background, I could hear Timmy wailing and what sounded like several other voices. My heart sank as she explained what happened. Apparently, Timmy had decided that while I was away, it would be the perfect time to feed the fishies. He'd grabbed a whole loaf of white bread from their kitchen, which, by the way, is absolutely terrible for koi, climbed over my fence, and tried to walk across the wooden bridge to get a better throwing angle. The bridge, while sturdy, isn't meant for running children. Timmy, in his excitement, slipped on the moisture-treated wood and fell straight into the pond. In his panic, he thrashed around, kicking up decades worth of carefully maintained substrate, damaging underwater plants, and colliding with my precious koi. The filtration system's intake got clogged with the debris he kicked up, causing the motor to burn out. I rushed home to find absolute chaos in my backyard. Karen had called several neighbors, who had helped fish Timmy out. But instead of leaving afterward, they were all still there, tracking mud around my pond and helping by throwing food to the clearly stressed fish. Someone had even tried to net them into plastic buckets to save them while the water cleared. The damage was catastrophic. Emperor, my prized Tancho Kohaku, had suffered severe scale damage from Timmy's kicking and died from stress within hours. 2 other younger koi were found floating the next morning. The carefully cultivated underwater landscape that maintained the pond's biological balance was destroyed. The automated feeder was knocked off its mount and cracked. The UV clarifier was clogged with debris and burned out. Even the bridge had a broken slat where someone had stepped wrong during the rescue. But according to Karen, none of that mattered because Timmy could have drowned. Never mind that the pond's deepest point is 4 feet, and Timmy is actually on his school's swim team, a fact I learned later from another neighbor. She demanded I pay for his hospital visit, which consisted of treating a few scrapes and a tetanus shot just in case, because obviously, this was all my fault for having such a dangerous attraction in my yard. The next few days were a nightmare. Karen posted about the incident on our neighborhood's Facebook group, painting me as some kind of monster who cares more about stupid fish than children's safety. She conveniently left out the parts about Timmy trespassing or the multiple warnings I'd given them. Several neighbors I'd never even spoken to started giving me dirty looks when I checked my mail. The final straw came when I discovered someone had dumped what looked like an entire bag of fish food into the pond overnight, presumably to help the surviving koi. This kind of overfeeding can destroy a pond's water chemistry and kill the fish, which any responsible pond owner knows. That's when I decided enough was enough and contacted my lawyer. The lawsuit I filed isn't just about the monetary damages, though those are substantial. The replacement cost for Emperor alone is significant, assuming I can even find another Tancho Kohaku of similar quality. The filtration system needs to be completely overhauled. The biological balance of the pond will take months to restore. The total comes to just over $15,000, but Karen keeps insisting these are just fish and that I'm being ridiculous. What really gets me is how she's twisted the narrative. According to her version, which she's been spreading around the neighborhood, I'm some kind of eccentric fish obsessive who's set up an attractive nuisance to lure children into danger. She's even started a petition to the HOA to have my pond classified as a dangerous feature that needs to be filled in. Thankfully, not everyone has bought into her story. My next door neighbor on the other side, Mrs. Rodriguez, has security cameras that caught Timmy's previous attempts to enter my yard. She's agreed to testify if needed. The local koi community has also been surprisingly supportive, with several members offering to provide expert testimony about the proper construction and safety features of my pond. The lawsuit is still pending, but it's already having some interesting effects. Greg, Karen's husband, finally came home for more than a weekend and, after seeing the actual evidence, tried to negotiate a settlement. He seemed genuinely mortified by his wife's behavior and Timmy's actions. But Karen refused to even consider it, insisting they'll countersue for emotional distress. The neighborhood has essentially split into two camps. There's Team Karen, who believe I'm being unreasonable and should just let it go because children make mistakes. Then there's Team Common Sense, as Mrs. Rodriguez calls it, who understand that actions have consequences, regardless of age. The police have been called 3 times now, once when Karen tried to throw fish food over my fence, caught on camera, once when someone vandalized my no trespassing signs, and once when Karen staged a protest in front of my house with some other neighborhood parents, holding signs that said things like fish greater than kids? And pond owner equals child hater. I've since installed additional security cameras, reinforced the fence, and added motion-activated sprinklers as a deterrent. Some might call it overkill, but given recent events, I'd say it's necessary protection for my investment. The remaining koi are still showing signs of stress, and I've had to postpone their breeding program, which means this incident will have ripple effects on my collection for years to come. My grandfather used to say that a koi pond is a reflection of life itself, complex, delicate, and requiring constant vigilance to maintain harmony. I don't think he ever imagined it would become the center of a suburban war, but I like to think he'd approve of me standing my ground. These aren't just fish, they're living creatures I'm responsible for, and more importantly, they're part of a legacy he entrusted to me. The court date is set for next month, and Karen has been telling everyone who'll listen that she's found a specialist who will testify that my pond is inherently dangerous and should never have been allowed in a residential area. My lawyer says her case doesn't have a leg to stand on, given the multiple warning signs and the fact that Timmy had to actively climb over a fence to access the pond. In the meantime, I've had to install security lights and cameras covering every angle of the property, because I don't trust Karen or her sympathizers not to try something else. The koi community has been incredibly supportive, with some members even offering to temporarily house my remaining fish if things escalate further. But I refuse to let Karen's actions drive me to dismantle what my grandfather spent years creating. As for Timmy, I actually feel sorry for him. Through all of this, he's being taught that he doesn't have to take responsibility for his actions and that it's okay to destroy other people's property as long as you can play the victim afterward. I've seen him being paraded around the neighborhood by Karen, who encourages him to tell everyone how mean I am and how traumatized he is by the incident. The whole situation has made me realize something about suburban life that my grandfather probably knew but never mentioned. Sometimes the most dangerous predators around a koi pond aren't the herons or raccoons, they're the neighbors who think their children can do no wrong. So here I am, 3 years into koi keeping, fighting a legal battle I never wanted, all because kids will be kids apparently means kids can destroy whatever they want without consequences. Some of my friends think I'm being too harsh, that I should just accept Karen's non-apology and move on. But I keep thinking about Emperor, about my grandfather's legacy, and about what message it would send to just let this go. The lawsuit continues, and I'll update when there's a resolution. But for now, I have a pond to rebuild, koi to care for, and a property to defend from what has become the most expensive case of kids will be kids I've ever encountered. So, Reddit, am I really the asshole for standing up for my property rights and my grandfather's legacy, even if it means taking legal action against a child's mother? Edit, since so many people are asking, yes, I have insurance, but it doesn't cover all the damages because some of the koi were recently acquired and hadn't been added to the policy yet. And no, filling in the pond is not an option. It's literally built into the landscaping of the entire yard with custom drainage systems and specialized filtration. Moving isn't an option either. This was my grandfather's house, and the pond was his life's work. Edit 2, for those suggesting I should have had a locked gate, I do. The fence is 6 feet high with no footholds, and the gate has both a regular lock and a padlock. Timmy climbed over using a ladder he dragged from their garage. This was all caught on camera.